we've got Otto Van Drack with us. And Otto, how you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having us today.
Thank you so much. And before I turn you loose, Otto, and talk about whatever you want to talk about, because it's all yours, especially as a gold class sponsor, which we really appreciate. Thank you very much. I just wanted to point out that if you go to railroadmodelcraftsman.com, guys, you'll be able to see this great article that they did for us. The show goes on, West Springfield show goes viral, and it was nicely done. And we really appreciate that, Otto. Thank you so much for doing that.
Sure, glad to. Over the years, I think a lot of people don't realize that the Amherst Railway Society uses a lot of the proceeds from the show to fund a lot of important railway preservation projects around the region. And we are really happy to support the show, not just because of that. The show's a great event by itself, but I think people don't realize the preservation aspect that's built into this. I know our museum up here in Rochester, New York, the Rochester Genesee Valley Railroad Museum, has been a recipient of many Amherst preservation grants over the years, and we thank you for that.
Well, gee, who's interviewing here? Who here? That took me by surprise. Thank you so much for saying that, Otto. I really appreciate that.
I think it's an important aspect that a lot of people don't realize. They just know it's a very large and popular show, but there's many aspects to it. And I know we're all missing it, but I think, this is a great event we've put on here today. Thanks so much to Virtual Railfan for making this happen and keeping everything running smoothly behind the scenes. I brought a few products to show off, current things that we're working on at the moment. Starting off with our February issue of Model Railroad News. This should be in most mailboxes already. February issue is a Canadian-themed issue. And one of the products they're highlighting is Cato's new N-scale Transcontinental, the Canadian National Transcontinental set. So that's really cool. And a lot of other great Canadian content as well. Switching hats for a moment, I'm also associate editor for Railfan and Railroad Magazine. And we have our February issue, which is titled True North. It's a celebration of Canadian railroading. We cover a lot of great railroading from coast to coast. Ryan Gaynor has an excellent photo essay about Northern Ontario. We talked to AJ Schuin. He's out there in Saskatchewan shooting CN 6-axles on an industrial branch. We travel out to the Southern Railway of British Columbia. We really cover a lot of different aspects. So you definitely want to check out the February issue of Railfan and Railroad with its Canadian content this month. Brings us up to Railroad Model. I'm never going to get used to this. Railroad Model Craftsman, our February cover this month. We travel to the Ashland District. This is Don Drum's HO scale Chicago Northwestern layout. Beautifully detailed, a lot of great typical Northwoods, Wisconsin scenes on this layout. Beautiful transition arrow layout, mostly hauling pulpwood and iron ore in this area, but also a lot of passenger schedules to work around. So I think that offers a challenge for the operators. You're trying to move your slow, pokey freight train, but here comes the 400. You got to get out of the way. So that's interesting. Also have an article about remotoring a PFM, an old Pacific Fast Mail import, a brass shay. Those shays were often well-detailed models, not great runners. We learned how to replace the motor in the drivetrain, make it more reliable. Also have a great story from Brooks Stover about how to have satisfying operating sessions on your smaller layouts. We go to his S-scale Buffalo Creek and Gawley layout, and he talks about how he set it up for operations. He has he can host 2 operating crews at a time. They have a nice 3-hour session, and it all works out really well for him. And we also have a great story from Mr. Matt Snell. Shows us how to make some unique tank car loads, tank head loads, the top of a tank being shipped to a place where you might have a tank farm or oil tanks or any industrial situation. These tank heads would be shipped on special bracing standing up in a gondola. So if you have some gondolas and you're looking for some interesting loads, not just leaving them empty, you want to check that out. We also have a few book titles just came out in the last few months, want to highlight. We have this excellent new volume just came out, Rio Grande's Narrow Gauge K36 Locomotives by Jerry Day. Jerry's been researching this topic for quite a while, and it's an exhaustive history of the entire K36 class that ran on Rio Grande's narrow gauge lines. It's a pretty thick book. If you're not into narrow gauge, you can use it to steady your dining room table. But I think there's more to it than that. A lot of great photography in here. Um, so if you're into the prototype or you're modeling, um, not only is there great color and black and white photography, but there's also an exhaustive history of how these engines were built and rebuilt, also how they ended up on the tourist railroads like Cumbraes and Toltec and how they got rebuilt. So there's a lot of great information here. There's rosters, there's drawings. Um, it's Here we go. This beautiful fold out um, detailed drawings. These are part of the book as well. So there's a lot of great technical information, like I said, for rail fans, for modelers. If you're just into steam locomotive technology, don't want to miss that. A couple of other projects I've been involved in. This is a great book, just came out this fall. Conrail in Pennsylvania's Lehigh Valley by Olive Tarme. He's been researching this book for a number of years. This book covers Conrail operations in the area around Easton and Allentown, PA. A lot of legacy railroads were consolidated into this area. You had the Jersey Central, you had the Erie Lackawanna, you had the Lehigh Hudson River, the Lehigh New England, the Lehigh Valley. You even had Penn Central and you had the Reading, and they all intertwined here. Allentown Yard being a major focus of the operations, a very busy place. You had Bethlehem Steel in Allentown. That was another major customer. You had numerous branch lines going out into the surrounding towns. Cement traffic was big for this area as well. So this is an all-color book. It's 128 pages. It covers everything from an introduction to the legacy operations, how they were consolidated under Conrail. We examine each branch line and the main lines. And then the final chapter is what happened under Norfolk Southern and how there was even further consolidation as well. So this was a great book to work on. I was the editor of this project, Conrail in Pennsylvania's Lehigh Valley. So again, if you're a Conrail fan, or if you're a fan of Northeastern railroading, branch line railroading, there's a lot of great inspiration here for modelers, a lot of great classic photography, not only from Olive, but from a number of well-known Northeastern photographers. Last project, this just came out towards the end of the year. Paint and Detail Railroad Models with Scott Lupia. This was a great project to work on. I was the editor for this as well. A number of Scott's projects from previous issues of Railroad Model Craftsman, plus a few new projects he wrote just for this book. There's projects in HO scale, N scale, even HON3. There's steam, there's diesel, there's cabooses, there's freight cars. And it's really all about different projects and kind of walking you through the process of everything from kit bashing to applying parts to a model to painting and weathering techniques. And there's a lot of different projects in here for different skill levels. So there's some that are probably easier to start for a first-time modeler, and then there's others that are maybe a little more advanced. This one is all about building a particular kit to represent an HO scale Lackawanna caboose, but they're not just specific to the project. A lot of the techniques and tips that are in this book can be used for a variety of projects. So if you're building a Craftsman kit, you can use those techniques. If you're kit bashing in styrene, there's other techniques as well. There's a whole chapter in here Scott talks about etching your own brass parts, your own detail parts. He was actually creating the project that's on the cover here, the Seaboard Coastline E6 units. They were Broadway Limited models. He wanted to add additional detail, and the way he did that was by etching his own parts. So you can find all of these books on the White River Productions website, which is located at shop.whiteriverproductions.com. You can order any of our books and magazines. You can subscribe to any of our publications. And we're always glad to hear from our readers. Like John said before, you can visit me at rrmodelcraftsman.com. You can see the article we did about how John and his crew prepared for this virtual event. And you can also get a teaser of some content that's in our magazines. So I look forward to seeing you all online. And John, thanks for having us today.
Wow. Otto, what do you do in your spare time?
What's that? What's spare time?
Yeah, really. That just is amazing that all of that's happening at once. And boy, White River has just gone crazy since I've known you guys, and I really appreciate it. I've got a real short story that involves you guys. We did for one of my friends' layouts a brewery modeled after the Coors warehouse with the
Sure.
transfer tables. And I called and I didn't have a copy of the article. I called you guys up. You found the article. You sent it to me. So
yeah, we're always glad to help our readers out. So.
Oh my God. Yeah. And this was long before I knew you, but I just wanted to convey that story just to let people know that that's how great you guys are. So I really appreciate that.
You're welcome. John, do you remember when you and I used to work together on the Northeastern Region newsletter, The Coupler?
Oh my gosh. Yes, now that you say that, oh my gosh, that's incredible. Yeah. Yeah. Small worlds. Yeah. I told everybody yesterday that there's no such thing as 6 degrees of separation. It's usually 2 degrees of separation. So
Right.
It's amazing. So it's very cool. Otto, thank you so much for being here. And I look forward to seeing you about a year from now.
Looking forward to it. Thanks very much, John. Take care.
All right. We really appreciate it. Take care. Have a great one. Thank you again.